Get ready to explore some of the forgotten songs and stories from 1977 that deserve your attention. Maybe you remember the songs, but never knew the stories behind them. Only the Good Die Young sparked immediate controversy upon its release, with its provocative lyrics about Catholic guilt and teenage sexuality. The song was written based on Billy Joel's actual experiences pursuing a Catholic girl named Virginia in his high school days. Several Catholic groups called for the song to be banned, which, as Joel later noted, only helped boost its popularity. The recording sessions were equally contentious, with Joel fighting to maintain the song's original shuffle rhythm against his producer's wishes for a more straightforward rock beat.
Only the good die young.
The controversy extended beyond religious groups, with some radio stations editing out certain lyrics they deemed too suggestive, much to Joel's frustration. Fun fact, the real Virginia for the song eventually became a nun, something Joel has said he found ironically amusing. He's never publicly revealed her full name out of respect for her privacy. Kenny Rogers' Lucille tells a story that ruffled quite a few feathers in 1977. Rogers, who started his career in jazz before moving through psychedelic rock with the first edition, finally found his true calling in country music at age 38. The transition wasn't smooth. Many country purists viewed him as an outsider trying to cash in on the genre's growing popularity. The song's narrative about a man discovering his wife's infidelity in a bar struck a chord with audiences, but also generated criticism for its seemingly sympathetic portrayal of adultery.
You picked a fine time to leave me, Lucille.
Rogers himself admitted years later that radio stations in more conservative markets initially hesitated to play it. Despite the controversy, or perhaps because of it, Lucille became Rogers' breakthrough hit as a solo artist, winning him a Grammy and establishing him as country music's newest star. Interestingly, Rogers revealed in his autobiography that he initially disliked Lucille and had to be convinced by his producer to record it. The song was inspired by a real encounter songwriter Roger Bowling had in an Indianapolis bar, though the real Lucille reportedly never knew she inspired the hit. Let's talk about Wire's Outdoor Miner. The band emerged from London's punk scene in 1976, but they weren't your typical three-chord pioneers. The art school background of the members led them to create something far more complex, often alienating hardcore punk fans who accused them of being pretentious and too educated for punk. Outdoor Miner stands as perhaps their most accessible track from this period.
No blind spots in the leopard's eyes can only help.
Though it still maintains an experimental edge. The song's unusual subject matter, it's about a leaf mining insect, exemplifies Wire's intellectual approach to songwriting. This didn't sit well with many punk contemporaries who preferred more direct political themes. The band faced significant pushback from both the punk community and mainstream radio for their refusal to conform to either side's expectations. The song's recording session was particularly notable as it was interrupted by a power cut caused by London's infamous Winter of Discontent labor strikes. The band had to finish recording using a generator, which accidentally created the distinctive buzzing sound heard in the track's bridge. If you're enjoying these stories about the songs that shaped our generation, take a moment to hit that like button. Share your memories of these tracks in the comments, and let's build a community of music lovers who remember when these songs first hit the airwaves. Don't forget to subscribe for more forgotten classics. The Ramones' Commando represents one of the most misunderstood songs of 1977. While the band had already established themselves as the pioneers of punk rock since their 1974 formation, this track from their third album, Rocket to Russia, showcased a darker, more complex side. The song emerged during a period of intense internal conflict within the band, with Johnny and Joey Ramone barely speaking to each other due to political differences and personal disputes. The lyrics, often dismissed as simple punk aggression, actually contain subtle commentary on military conditioning and conformity. This interpretation caused friction with some of their hardcore fans who preferred to take the Ramones at face value. The band's record label also expressed concerns about the song's potential to alienate their growing mainstream audience, particularly given the Vietnam War's recent end. A little-known fact about Commando is that the iconic machine gun-like guitar riff was actually inspired by Johnny Ramone's childhood experience of playing with toy soldiers. The recording session for this track was also memorable because it had to be completed in just 2 takes. The band couldn't afford any more studio time. The Beach Boys' "The Night Was So Young" emerged during one of the band's most turbulent periods. By 1977, they were struggling to maintain relevance in a changing musical landscape, and Brian Wilson's well-documented personal struggles had strained relationships within the group. The song appeared on their Love You album, which polarized fans and critics with its raw, almost primitive electronic sound. Despite being relegated to album track status, the song represents some of Brian Wilson's most vulnerable songwriting.
The night was so young and everything still.
The record label reportedly pushed for a more commercial sound, leading to heated arguments during recording sessions. The band's refusal to compromise on the electronic arrangement led to limited radio play, effectively burying what could have been a hit single. Many fans don't realize that the distinctive synthesizer sound throughout the track came from one of the first Moog synthesizers ever produced. Brian Wilson had purchased it years earlier, but had been saving it for what he considered the right moment. The instrument actually broke down multiple times during recording, and the band had to wait several days for the only qualified repair technician on the West Coast to fix it. Foreigner's "Long, Long Way From Home" hit the airwaves as New York's music scene was experiencing a major identity crisis. The band, formed in 1976, faced initial resistance from both American and British audiences due to their multinational lineup, some radio stations even refusing to play them, arguing about whether they should be classified as a British or American band. The song's lyrics, discussing the alienation of moving to a big city, resonated with many listeners, but caused controversy in the New York music scene. Several prominent New York musicians criticized the band for what they saw as a negative portrayal of the city, particularly during a period when New York was fighting against its reputation for crime and decay. The recording process itself was marked by tension as the band fought with their producer over whether to emphasize the rock or pop elements of their sound. Few people know that the song's bridge was actually inspired by a midnight subway ride where Lou Gramm, the lead singer, got lost in the Bronx and ended up writing the lyrics on the back of a subway map. The original recording also included a longer guitar solo that was cut from the final version, much to guitarist Mick Jones's disappointment. Hey, if these stories are bringing back memories of your own musical journey, don't keep them to yourself. Hit that subscribe button and share your experiences in the comments. Let's keep these memories alive together. Share this video with your friends who lived through these amazing musical times. Billy Joel's "Sleeping with the Television On" came from his Glass Houses album, though it wasn't released until 1980. This song was actually written in 1977 during a particularly cynical period in Joel's life. The track emerged when Joel was fighting against his piano man image, trying to prove he could rock as hard as any other artist. During this time, he was also dealing with legal battles with his former manager, which left him particularly bitter about the music industry. The song's theme of urban loneliness struck a chord with listeners, though Joel faced criticism from some quarters for abandoning his more romantic style. The recording sessions were notably tense, with Joel reportedly scrapping entire takes because they sounded too pretty. His insistence on a harder edge led to arguments with both his band and producer Phil Ramone, who initially wanted a softer, more radio-friendly approach. Here's something most fans don't know. The television static sound effect in the background was recorded from Joel's actual TV in his apartment. He had insisted on using the real thing rather than a synthesized version and spent nearly 3 hours recording different TV static sounds until he found the perfect one. Mull of Kintyre by Wings emerged during a period when Paul McCartney was fighting to prove himself beyond the Beatles' shadow. The band formed in 1971 after McCartney's bitter split from the Fab Four, and despite critical skepticism, Wings managed to chart their own course. While many dismissed them as McCartney's rebound band, they would go on to become the most successful post-Beatles project of any former member. The song itself marked a dramatic departure from Wings' rock-oriented sound incorporating traditional Scottish elements, including the Campbelltown Pipe Band. This decision sparked controversy within the music industry, with several radio stations initially refusing to play it, claiming it was too folk-oriented for their rock audiences. However, the track went on to become the first UK single to sell over 2 million copies, though it barely made a dent in the US charts. What many don't know is that Mull of Kintyre was recorded at McCartney's farm in Scotland, and the pipe band featured in the song had to record their parts outdoors because their instruments were too loud for the makeshift studio. The local sheep were reportedly so startled by the bagpipes that farmers in neighboring fields complained about decreased milk production. New York State of Mind was Billy Joel's response to critics who claimed he had gone Hollywood after spending time in LA. Written on a Greyhound bus heading back to New York, the song was Joel's way of reaffirming his roots, though it initially received pushback from his label, who worried it was too New York-centric for national appeal. The song's jazz-influenced style marked a departure from his previous work, causing concern among his management team who feared it might alienate his rock audience. Joel insisted on using actual New York session musicians for authenticity, leading to budget overruns and tensions with the record company.
I'm in New York State of Mind.
The saxophone solo, which is now iconic, was initially considered too old-fashioned by marketing executives. What many don't realize is that Joel wrote the entire song in just one bus ride, scribbling lyrics on the back of an old tour itinerary. The original paper with his notes, complete with coffee stains and cigarette burns, is now in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame archives. Well, that's it, friends. Please be sure to share your own memories of these songs in the comments below. What was happening in your life when you first heard them? Every story adds to our shared musical heritage. Until next time, keep those records spinning and the memories flowing.